Hey guys, it's Marianna, and it's time for another Game of Thrones episode recap. So today we're talking about Season 5, Episode 6, Unbowed, Unbent, Unbroken. You could probably already tell that I am not in the happiest of moods right now because this was one of the most frustrating episodes I have seen on Game of Thrones, and I have not been this angry with an episode since the Red Wedding, and that is saying a lot because we all know how we felt about the Red Wedding. And the thing is, on one hand, it's great that a show can make you care so much about the characters that when something bad happens to them, it really affects you emotionally and you're frustrated and upset, and that means the show is doing its job because the characters are relatable and you want to root for them. But on the other hand, it is so upsetting and frustrating to watch the characters that you like take a bad turn, especially in this episode where it wasn't just the one storyline. There were 4 storylines that pissed me off this episode, which was just not what I wanted to experience. And of course, I did not want to end my weekend by watching a rape scene. That was not cool, HBO. So let's start with the House of Black and White because this is the first thing that we saw in the episode, and this is the only storyline that didn't take a shit on me. We have Arya, who is now spending her time washing corpses. She has been promoted from just scrubbing the floors to scrubbing the floors and washing the corpses. But she, of course, is getting frustrated and annoyed just like she was earlier because that's not what she came there to do. And she keeps trying to find out what's going on, why are they doing this, and she cannot get an answer. And there's this really interesting scene between her and the other girl when you think that the other girl is giving you a little bit of her background and telling Arya what her deal is and where she came from. But in the end, she asks Arya, was that true or a lie? And did you believe every word I said? And Arya is just confused for a second because she didn't realize they are always playing the game at the House of Black and White. So that was an interesting interaction, and that definitely caught me off guard because I was there with Arya thinking that this girl is actually opening up. I know better now. Later on, we see Sexy Jesus, aka Jaqen, who is also playing the game with Arya slightly differently. Arya is trying to tell him some lies by answering his questions, but every time she tries to lie, he calls it. And what's interesting about that scene is that Arya says that she left the Hound dying and didn't kill him because she wanted him to suffer and she hated him, and Jaqen calls that as a lie as well and tells her that she's lying to herself along with lying to everybody else. Finally, we see Arya scrubbing the floors once again when this guy comes in with his daughter, and his daughter is really sick and miserable, and he pretty much tells Arya that he has tried every single healer around and his daughter just keeps suffering and he doesn't want her to suffer anymore. And this is one of those instances where people come to the House of Black and White to die because that's essentially what the guy brought his daughter there for. And Arya tries to play the game once again, and this time she succeeds. She sits down next to the girl and she tells her a story about herself that isn't true but that comforts the girl before she makes her drink the water from the fountain. Jaqen sees all of this, and then when Arya is washing the girl's body afterwards, he invites her to come with him further into the house and to the lower levels, and they arrive in this really mysterious and odd looking hall that's kind of like a crypt, and it has all of these rows of other people's faces, which looks really ominous but also really kind of cool. And they have this exchange where Jaqen pretty much tells her that even though she's not ready to become no one and give up everything that makes her who she is ready to become someone else. So finally, we're going to see Arya do something exciting, or at least learn something exciting, because we have been anticipating this House of Black and White learning process for a while now. We have been teased with this whole season, and I think finally we're going to see what this whole faceless man thing is all about. What I do question about Arya's storyline is, what is she going to do after she becomes one of the faceless man? Because it seems like once you become one of them, you kind of give up everything about yourself, and it doesn't seem that she would go on a revenge spree afterwards, but at the same time right now, that's definitely her goal. That is why she wants to become one of the Faceless Men because she wants to avenge her family and she wants to hurt all of the people who have wronged her and her family. So I am wondering how this scenario is going to play out in the end, but I do really hope that there's going to be some revenge along the way because she deserves to get her revenge, and people who have wronged her and the Starks deserve what's coming to them. Now, moving on to all of the people who aren't doing so well this episode. First of all, let's talk about Jorah and Tyrion. And they are on their merry way to Meereen, aside from the fact that Jorah has grayscale and that's a problem. But Tyrion doesn't know about it, so he's trying to get Jorah talking, which kind of annoys Jorah, but in the end he kind of gives in because they end up bonding a little bit more towards the end of the scene. At first, Jorah finds out why Tyrion is even in this part of the world and what happened to his father and what Tyrion did. And then he also finds out what happens to his own father because Jorah hasn't had the best life either, and he didn't know his father died, and he kind of has this beautiful moment that was played by the actor brilliantly where you just see him accept the news about his father and process that pain, and it is a beautiful scene. You see Jorah and Tyrion kind of bond as these misfits of the world, and it is definitely interesting to watch. And this whole thing is giving me the Jaime Lannister, Brienne of Tarth vibe. Later on, while they're discussing why Jorah decided to side with Daenerys and Tyrion is kind of questioning whether she's going to be a good ruler or not, they stumble upon some slavers and they get captured. Tyrion does manage to get them kind of back on track and buy them some time by convincing them that Jorah is this great warrior and that these guys should take them to the fighting pits at Meereen. So they are going in the right direction, but not in the right way that they should be, and they're definitely in trouble now. I don't know how they're getting out of it. And obviously Jorah is not welcomed by Daenerys at this point, so I don't even know how this is going to work out, and I am very concerned about this journey right now because it seems like everything that could have gone wrong with Tyrion's trip to Meereen has gone wrong already. My only question is, where is Varys? Because he did not go back to King's Landing. I don't think so. So maybe he's making his way to Meereen on his own to counsel Daenerys. So maybe if he gets to Meereen before Jorah and Tyrion get there, he'll be able to remedy the situation a little bit. But at the same time, that doesn't help the fact that Jorah has grayscale and it is just all going to shit there. Then we have young love at Dorne between Myrcella and Trystane, who are talking about how they're going to get married, and we are obviously sitting here thinking, yeah, right, because we know that there are sand snakes coming for Myrcella, and also Jaime and Bronn, and of course, what a coincidence, they get there at the same time. There's a fight that breaks out between the Sand Snakes and Jaime and Bronn, so when the guards show up, everybody gets taken in, and they come for Alaria Sand too, so now everybody is captured, and Jaime and Bronn have officially failed, so that's great. And also, Bronn got wounded during this fight by one of the sand snakes, and even though it doesn't look bad at all, it just kind of looks like a little bit of a cut, we all remember about the poisons and House Martell, and that just makes me really worried about Bronn, and I immediately started thinking that Bronn is now a goner because I don't see a reason of why would they try to help him out after him and Jaime tried to kidnap the girl. So I'm concerned about these guys too, so their quest has gone to shit. Then at King's Landing, first of all, Peter Baelish arrives and he is greeted by the Sparrows, who are not the most welcoming people at the moment, especially when it comes to Peter Baelish, who is a brothel owner and is just a shady guy in their eyes and in everyone's eyes, let's be honest. And Peter, of course, talks his way out of it, and he goes to see Cersei, and the first thing that he does is assures her of his loyalty, and then he tells her that he has found Sansa Stark. Sure, Peter, that's what finding people looks like. And he tells Cersei that according to his sources, Sansa is set to marry Ramsay Bolton, which obviously Cersei is pissed about because she hates Sansa and she thinks that Sansa helped out with killing Joffrey, which indirectly she did, but she isn't really to blame because she didn't know this was happening. Of course, Peter has his own agenda and he says, how about we let Stannis and the Boltons battle it out, and then when somebody wins while they're licking their wounds, we're going to attack them and take over the north that way. And he offers his help along with the Knights of the Vale in this situation. In exchange, if he succeeds in taking over the north, he wants Cersei to name him Warden of the North. And Cersei warms up to that idea pretty quickly, says she will talk to the king, but we all know that translation, mission approved. Also, Lady Olenna arrives at King's Landing and she is there to fix the whole situation with Loras, and the first thing she does is she goes to talk to Cersei. A lot of people talking to Cersei this episode, and Cersei doesn't really care about what she has to say. She is still sticking with her story that she didn't arrest Loras and that the High Sparrow arrested him and she has nothing to do with it, and she couldn't be more surprised about what happened. And she tells Lady Olenna that Loras is being held for questioning more or less, and that there's going to be a hearing where they're going to determine whether or not there needs to be a trial, and she is sure that this is all a misunderstanding and Loras is going to be released after that. Yeah, that's not what happens. Of course, this hearing doesn't go too well for the Tyrells, and Loras denies the allegations against him, of course, but then Marjorie is called to testify by the High Sparrow, and he asks her if, to her best knowledge, Loras is innocent or not, and of course she swears that, to her best knowledge, he is innocent. And then they call this former squire of Loras Tyrell and his former lover as well, and this guy just spills the beans and not only says that Loras is guilty of what they are accusing him of, but also says that Marjorie saw them together. So now not only Loras is being taken to trial, but also Marjorie as well for lying under oath. As Marjorie is being taken away, she calls out to Tommen, and Tommen doesn't say a word because he is fucking useless. Oh my god, so frustrating. And I get that he's a kid and everything, but at the same time, he's the king. Are you kidding me right now? What are you doing there turning around looking at your mom? Like, what is wrong with you? The only thing that makes me hopeful about this whole situation is the look that Lady Olenna gave Cersei after all of that went down, because we know that Lady Olenna can be deadly when she wants to be. So she hopefully is going to fix this and put Cersei back in her place. Hopefully. If not, I don't even know. And then let's talk about Winterfell, where this beautiful romantic wedding happened, right? First of all, we see Miranda, who shows up to give Sansa a bath and also pass some wisdom along to her about Ramsay, but Sansa quickly figures out that Miranda is in love with Ramsay, so she kind of kicks her out and tells her that she will not be afraid of her because Sansa is trying to man up like Lord Baelish told her to. And then the wedding happens and Sansa looks beautiful in her dress. This is the only good thing I can say about the scene. Sansa looks beautiful, everything else is not beautiful. Theon shows up to take her and bring her to the wedding to give her away to Ramsay. And that wedding, even though nobody died this time around, it still looked like a depressing wedding even before anything happened. Next scene, I don't even want to talk about it. The really awkward and terrible opening to Sansa's and Ramsay's wedding night, where Ramsay just shows his true colors to her once again and even makes Theon watch as he essentially rapes his bride. Why did this happen in this episode? It was so frustrating to watch and so uncomfortable, and that's how the episode ended, which was the most depressing and frustrating thing. And if there was ever a moment for Theon to redeem himself in this show, that was it. And he just stood there and cried because he's even more fucking useless than Tommen. And that's saying something in this episode because Tommen was pretty useless. I think a lot of people were waiting for Theon to redeem himself in this moment, and I still have that little tiny hope that he eventually will snap and that maybe this scene was like the trigger for him to snap out of it and just turn on Ramsay, and maybe Sansa and Theon are going to take revenge on these people. But this hope keeps slowly dying within me because it just keeps getting worse for these characters, and Stannis right now is kind of my only hope in this show. I'm not even kidding. What also really frustrated me about this whole thing is that when Sansa at the end of the last season got taken out of the King's Landing by Peter Baelish, and they are at the Vale, and then they get rid of Aunt Lysa, and Sansa kind of starts over as this new person, and we are all excited because she's finally joined the Game of Thrones and she's this new person, her suffering has ended, and we were all so excited to see that. And now with all of this Bolton crap, she has reverted back to suffering, and it just feels like her character, instead of moving forwards, is moving backwards. It's so annoying, and I'm not happy about it. And I'm actually looking forward to reading the books even more now. I am on book 3 right now, and I know that this is not how Sansa's storyline goes in the books, and I'm actually very excited to see the different version of her story, because the show version of her story is really making me unhappy. The only development of her character on the show that I want to see right now is her killing Ramsay and his father freaking terribly and them dying a painful death. Then I will be happy with the show. Can you tell I'm upset about this? I'm very upset. She's one of my favorite characters. This is not cool, Game of Thrones. What the hell? So that's it for episode 6, and I don't think I'm alone at being frustrated with it. Let's talk about it in the comments below. Let me know what you thought and how did it make you feel. Generally, I can't even say that I liked this episode. It's not that it was badly made, like obviously Game of Thrones episodes are made well. It's just that what this episode was about made me so angry, and you have 5 storylines and only one of them is going well. What is happening? Why is this happening? I really, really hope that the villains in the story get what they deserve. I have been talking about how much I'm sick of the Boltons, and I am even more sick of the Boltons now because come on now, can the Starks get a break? And also, what is up with everybody getting captured in this episode? My God, can this end? Nevertheless, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I hope you're having an awesome day, or at least a much better day than people in Westeros, because let's be real, it doesn't get much worse than that. But I hope you guys are doing well, and I will see you soon in my next video. Bye!